You talk a lot about this particular topic, authority, power. I'm curious, what exactly does that mean? Secondly, why does it matter more than ever now?
Think about authority power. To me, it's very different than expertise or thought leadership. This is the black belt level of your area of genius. It's being very specific with who you serve and what problem you solve. And expertise is the beginning phases of that. But when you become an authority power, you have.
What's the biggest mistake people often make while trying to build their brand?
That's a great question. So there's a couple of things that I have seen working with clients that they misstep in when they're trying to build their brand. The first thing is they don't have clarity, the problem they solve, and the transformative, disruptive solution they provide. They say, I'm faster, I'm cheaper. They use the ers, right? Competency. Competency doesn't cut it anymore. It can't be just okay.
I have this analogy of storytelling. I have done multiple podcasts on storytelling and how to tell a proper story as well. But someone with your caliber must have different answers, must have new narratives. So I'm curious to know this as well. What's the difference between telling a story and telling the right story?
God, you just set me up. So I wrote a book with co-author Henry DeVries called Persuade with a Digital Content Story. And it actually won one of the top 11 content marketing books in the world to read in 2021, which actually kind of shocked me. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. When we talk about storytelling, why are we sharing a story? That's the first question. What are you hoping to get out of sharing a story? We're trying to show relatability. We're trying to show relevancy, and we're trying to build trust. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And people are hardwired for stories. So your story does matter.
Hello everyone, I'm Pratyush and welcome back to a fresh episode of The Underdog Protagonist. Today's guest has been called America's Digital Content Futurist, and for good reason. Lisa Apolinski is a 5-time author, Forbes-featured strategist, and the founder of 3Right. She has helped businesses generate $1.5 billion in new revenue by teaching them how to turn their content into a tool for trust, traction, and transformation. From brand storytelling to authority power, Lisa's mission is clear: to help entrepreneurs and experts become the go-to voice for the problem they are trying to solve, not just online, but in real life. So without any further ado, let's welcome Lisa Apolinski to the podcast. Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the Underdog Protagonist podcast. How are you?
I'm very well, Pratyush. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Likewise. But before we begin this podcast episode, I just want you to share a little bit about yourself, like what you do, who you are, and what are you best known for, to give context to our listeners.
Sure. So my name is Lisa Apolinski. I work with authors, speakers, consultants, and small business owners who want to establish or reestablish their authority power so they become the clear, no-brainer go-to in their industry for the problem that they solve. AI has dubbed me the digital dominance strategist, and I have been called the authority on authority power. So how do you become a go-to expert in your field?
So just define this authority power, I have listened to a lot of your podcast episodes as well, like where you have appeared. You talk a lot about this particular topic, the authority power. And I'm curious, what exactly does that mean? And secondly, why does it matter more than ever now?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you think about authority power, to me, it's very different than expertise or thought leadership. This is the black belt level of your area of genius. It's being very specific with who you serve and what problem you solve. And expertise is the beginning phases of that. But when you become an authority power, you have a vast amount of actual applicable knowledge and experience. You've seen a lot of stuff. You've gone through some things, and you're able to help your clients go through those things as well. Now, I used to say that authority power is based on how long you've been working in your field. I can't really say that anymore. Back in 94, 97, when I started way back when, it took several years or even a decade for the next technological advancement to happen and to see something that would disrupt you so that you could really hone your skills and have that ability to get through and weather different storms. We're at a point now where it seems like we're being hit every other week with a different economic, financial, global problem, right? It's just coming at us in tsunami waves.
Yeah.
And we have technological advancements happening at lightning speed. So before, where you'd have a blip and everyone would go, ah, and then they'd have time to recover. Now it's blip, 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 blip. So, before I used to say, oh, look for someone who has been doing stuff for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. I actually don't feel like I can say that anymore. Someone who's been doing this for 5 years has had a lot of experience with some really bad stuff. I do think with continued work, you continue to hone those abilities. And again, it's getting into that area of genius. Why it's so critical now, I think it's on two fronts. I'm going to first talk about technology, and then I'm going to talk about really human capacity to get through bad stuff. So with AI, you have a competency already at your fingertips, right? I can go in on AI and ask them, how do I do personal branding? What's some strategies I can do for thought leadership? I can ask these questions and get a very superficial answer. And authority power has to go beyond that competency. It has to have the stories that can be shared. It has to have the depth of knowledge. I personally have taken market share through 9/11, a recession with a housing bubble blow up, a pandemic, and now a global tariff war. So I feel like one more and I get a set of steak knives. Like, this has been insane, the amount of things that I've had to work through, and just all these shifts. So that's number one. AI is making you really define that area of genius. And when I talk about area of genius, I mean the one thing, and I do mean one thing, that if you only got that work for the rest of your career, it would bring you passion, it would bring you joy. It's something that you're like, yeah, if I got in front of someone and I was able to talk to them, they would be like, oh my God, you are the answer to all my problems. Please solve this. Let me throw a bunch of money at you. That's the area of genius I want you to focus on. Something that disrupts your industry, that's transformative, that you do that nobody else can. It's a unique set of skills that you have developed over a very long career. So that's the technology side. The other side is because we're having these disruptions like every other month, people just have an amazing amount of fear. They are looking to reduce their risk when they choose someone to help them solve a problem. That was true earlier, but I feel like now it's just totally amplified. They believe that everyone is a charlatan, everyone is out to get them, take their money, and not solve their problem. And I encounter that a lot, that people are just afraid. They're afraid to make a decision because they feel like I got one shot at this. And if I mess it up, that's going to be it. I'm out that money. I haven't solved the problem. I could go under. There's some really bad stuff happening. So by investing in your authority power and really showcasing that area of genius, you're helping to lower that risk level for your clients. They see what you can do. You showed up consistently. You share knowledge and expertise freely because what you share is a tiny fraction of everything that you're able to do, because you have all those nuances that really make a difference between doing okay going along and just adding fuel to that rocket ship and just flying to that success point. So helping them reduce that anxiety and that concern about risk, to me, is absolutely golden for your clients. I think the most powerful sentence in the English language is, I know a guy. My mission is to make you that guy. And think about that. If someone is like, oh my God, you have to use this person, like it's a no brainer. This is the person you have to use, and you don't use them, they almost shame you, don't they? Like, what do you mean you didn't choose my guy? What? Why would you do that? No. No, cancel that contract. Use this guy. And that's what we want. We want that kind of momentum and power in our community and in our conversations.
I mean, everyone wants to be that guy, but as you said, they lack that confidence. And in that anxious phase, they commit a lot of mistakes, you know? And you, having worked with so many people over the years, you must know what's the biggest mistake people often make while trying to build their brand.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's a couple of things that I have seen working with clients that they misstep in when they're trying to build their brand. The first thing is they don't have clarity on the problem they solve and the transformative, disruptive solution they provide. They say, I'm faster, I'm cheaper. They use the ers, right? Which again goes back to my comment before that that's competency. Competency doesn't cut it anymore. It can't be just okay. You have to have something that's truly unique. And I believe that every single person does. They just haven't figured it out yet. And it's probably something that they consider a throwaway that actually, when it's shared with a client, it's mind blowing, it's life altering. I was working with a client who provides sales support and training, how to actually convert leads. And he threw something out. It was a one sentence and he threw it out like it was nothing. And to me, it was the pivotal point of his entire process that made the difference and made him disruptive. It was actually something that he's just like, no, I just, like, everyone does that. No, nobody does that. And I've been doing this a long time. Nobody does it that way. That's unique. If you're not sure what that area is, talk to your clients, walk through your process, document it, and then talk to your clients. And they're going to go, have that outside perspective where it's like, oh, that's what I do differently. And you can talk about that one thing that is transformative. So that's the first thing. The second one is trying to offer everything to everybody. And I've done that. I started my agency in 2012. And when I started, I went the traditional route and I was a full service agency. I had 15 subcontractors, soup to nuts. I offered everything. And number one, it was very hard to compete against other agencies because they had the same services. And it's really hard to say, this is my area of genius when you offer 30 things. And I was bringing in a lot of revenue, but a lot of revenue was going out. I was making a lot of money for a lot of other people and not a lot of money for myself. And I was like, this seems wrong. And I was working 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And I had quit corporate America, Fortune 500, so I wouldn't have to work to that level. And I was like, okay, something's not right here. And that's when there were other things that happened too, but that's when I'm like, okay, this is absolutely the right thing to do. And I basically blew up my agency in 2023. I just went, you know what? I got to start over. I got to get back to basics. And that's when I really honed in on authority and content. And that's all I do now. Now, if you need a website, if you need a PR person, if you need a booking agent, if you need a graphic designer, if you need, an SEO person, if you need a videographer, I know a guy. A lot of people I know that I can refer you to, but I no longer do that because that's not my area of genius. I I didn't go to graphic design school. I'm not a videographer. Um, I know enough about SEO, but not to the level that an SEO expert, a true authority does. And that shifts like every other day. So making sure that I got very clear as to what I truly do and where I can truly make the most impact with my clients. And to me, that is helping them unleash their authority power and become that clear go-to.
Gotcha. I mean, it's all about that strategic positioning, and you have to choose your goal, like where you're best at, and you have to market that to everyone instead of diverting or pivoting to multiple things. And I believe there's this one key component that helps everyone do that is a compelling brand story. People do not buy your products. People don't buy because yours is the best. People don't buy because it's unique. People only buy in because they love the story behind it. Talk about any big brand. They are successful today because the story that have been narrated to the customers resonate with them. They like the story. They buy in the idea. That's why they buy the products next, right?
Right.
So I have this analogy of storytelling. I have done multiple podcasts on storytelling, how to tell a proper story as well. But someone with your caliber must have different answers, must have new narratives. So I'm curious to know this as well. What's the difference between telling a story and telling the right story?
God, you just set me up. Yay! Thank you for this. That makes me so happy. Yeah. So I wrote a book with my co-author Henry DeVries called "Persuade with a Digital Content Story," and it actually won. It was named one of the top 11 content marketing books in the world to read in 2021, which actually kind of shocked me, to be honest. I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. Um, when we talk about storytelling, why are we sharing a story? That's the first question. What are you hoping to get out of sharing a story? We're trying to show relatability, we're trying to show relevancy, and we're trying to build trust. People buy from people they know, like, and trust. And people are hardwired for stories. So your story does matter. When I work with clients about how to bring in stories into their conversations, into their content, into their presentations, the one thing that they have to kind of reimagine and really shift their mindset around, and it can be a struggle, is you are not the important thing in your story. Just like in your personal brand, and I wrote a book on that too, the greatest personal brand story ever told. Personal brand has nothing to do with you. Your story has nothing to do with you. I'm going to say that again. It has nothing to do with you. It's your reader's journey that should be your focus. So if I want to make sure the reader can follow a story and put themselves in it, I need to make sure that my hero is someone that is relatable to my audience. And that's going to be your client. So when you talk about how, you help someone get from where they are to that future success point, you have to talk from the viewpoint of that client. A lot of times we want to fall into, these are the things I did, and this is how I helped, and me, and I. No, absolutely not. If you think about the story that I told about my one client, I talked about him. I talked about his journey, what he did, something that he overlooked. And then when we documented, he saw it and went, oh, that's great. And once he saw it, you could never unsee it. So when you write the story, you have to look at it from the viewpoint of, your reader putting themselves in. And think about that. If you're talking about a client and their journey, the person goes, I have that problem. I want that solution. They lean in, they want to learn more, and they envision themselves working with you because you've just set up a narrative for them to do so. That's powerful to really connect on an emotional and human level and have someone go, yes, I can see hitting that future success point with you as my guide. And I do want to caveat this, and this might be unpopular, and I'm okay with that. And I'm writing my next book right now, Unleash Your Authority Power. And it's something I mentioned in the book as well. Your client has made it to this point without you. No offense. They've made it this far. They'll probably make it the rest of the way. What you're trying to help them do is to leapfrog to that success point. So they don't have to make mistake, win. They're going right to the win. That's really what they're paying you for. I want to get, to the West Coast, and I need you to guide me because you've done it 10 times, kind of a thing. It's lowering risk because you've done it. And so they can follow you because you have much more experience than they do. And it's accelerating that getting to that success point without all the mistakes along the way. Because any number of mistakes could cause, a catastrophic failure in your business. I mean, that could happen. One bad error could totally wipe out your business and you're starting over, or dramatically reduce your client load and then you're starting over. So that's really what they're paying you for. They're paying you to get them to that future success point. And one thing that I like to do personally, because, I believe in teachable moments, is I actually teach what I practice every day. I teach the foundational elements of authority so that if they hit another snag, if they pivot, if they have to change their messaging slightly, they already have the tools in place and they just keep going. Like, I actually bake obsolescence into my practice because, again, I know you've made it this far without me. Once I've helped you, I'm going to give you a hug and a shove and push you out of the nest and watch you fly away. And you'll be soaring. You don't need me because you have the wings to fly. Now you just know how to use them.
The major setback I think people are facing is because of AI kind of taking over. We are in the age of automation, right? And during this age of automation, to maintain one's tone and authority is really difficult, like a challenge. So a lot of creators are using AI. I mean, that's true. And they're kind of trying to adapt to this new ever changing technology. But often what is happening is that they are losing their voice in the process. What's your take on this?
So AI is a tool like anything else. If you're leaning on it too much to handle everything, you will lose that nuanced human voice and the stories that are behind your knowledge, skills, and attitudes. And you should be gathering stories almost every day. I mean, you encounter new people, you see things, and you can share that. I think AI is there just like a calculator is there to help you with math. You still have to be able to do math. The calculator is there just to accelerate things. And AI is really there to scale and to create, right? Best thing that I can do is get you there faster and get more out. That's what AI is for. It's like 1,000 little assistants that are helping you.
True.
So when you're leaning into AI, especially for content creation, I like to use it for research, right? What's the sentiment? What are other competitors doing? Because it can gather information and pull it in. But then I also look at the sources to see if I have a slightly different take. If I see something that the AI model did not, that's how my area of genius can come in. And I also make sure that if I am using AI, I'm using it maybe to flush out an idea, and then I'm taking it and writing it. If you do decide to have it write everything, it can really strip out your voice and your brand personality and your humanity. And, you can't just say, write me a 200-word article about XYZ and then just take it and shove it on the internet because you are recapping what everyone else has said. Leaders always lead. You need to add your 2 cents on what's happening and where it's going. Because if I can get the same information just pulling it off of AI, why would I pay you? It's making sure you're adding that added value. Um, and I also think, it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? That you're trying to show value beyond AI, but that you still have to be seen by AI. It's very, very frustrating. And if you haven't done it, and I tell my clients to do this all the time, and I would do it like maybe once a month. It doesn't have to be like every day. I periodically go in and what is Lisa Apolinski known for? And I do it on a couple different AI platforms because I'd like to see what it's pulling in and what it's thinking could be of value. I did it over the weekend for one of my chapters, but then it talked about how I transcend B2B and B2C communications because I look at the human aspect of P2P, person to person, people to people. So I think I've written that like once. I say it a lot. It is my soapbox. I hate the term, and I mean hate, and I don't use that word often. I hate the term B2B, B2C. I hate it because it's not accurate. If you're a business, you are a person in a business. If you are selling to another business, you're selling to people in that business. It's not that you suddenly are having, Google and Amazon talking to each other. No, those are inanimate objects. It's the people at Google talking to the people at Amazon, people to people, person to person. It has to still start with that human interaction, that relationship. That will never change. And I say that all the time. I've said it on stage. I've said it in interviews. I've said it in podcasts. And again, I've only written it once. And when I put it into ChatGPT, that's one of the things that reflected back to me, that was in its mind, what makes Lisa different? I mean, it actually said that. And I was like, that's so interesting. To me, that's a pet peeve. But to the sentiment that AI is looking at, that's actually a transformative statement. And I'm like, oh, interesting. Maybe I should own that more. Maybe that should be part of what I write so that it's attributed to me. And I've heard other people repeat it to me. And I love being quoted back to myself. It's the funniest thing ever. And I ask them, where did you hear that? And they're like, I think I heard it on a podcast and I don't think I've heard anybody else say it. And I listen to a lot of stuff. Yeah. And again, it was a pet peeve of mine that's turned into an area of genius. And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't done a search on AI. So to me, it's worth it. Go in, see what it's saying about you. Is it accurate? Is it the area of genius that you want it to reflect back to you? Is there anything else that maybe is part of that area of genius that you've kind of dismissed? Like, again, well, that's just my soapbox statement. That's me being, irritated and going, stop using that term. And and it says, no, that's actually kind of cool. And that, people like that statement. So to me, it's important to research yourself. I used to say, do a Google search and see what comes back. And you still should do that. But now you need to add AI into that mix. What are you known for? What's your area of genius? Who do you work with? Any of those items. And if there's something that's inaccurate, then that's an area that you have to start to address in your content.
Exactly. I mean, it's such a deep topic, but I want to shift gears to the ROI of storytelling. What does it really bring back to anyone who is trying to tell a story? Let's talk about how it goes beyond engagement and how it drives businesses, how content drives businesses. You have helped companies generate over $1 billion in revenue, right? And I want to know, what is that one thing they do consistently right.
Yeah. Whether it's a Fortune 500 company, whether it's someone who's working on a career trajectory, whether it's an author or speaker or consultant or small business owner, persuasive stories are stories that have stickiness. So if I tell you my features and benefits of my program, you're going to glaze over. You're not going to listen to me, and it's not going to be retained in your head. Just, it's not, right? It's just not going to happen. However, if I tell you a story related to the results someone got because of my features and benefits, right? And again, they're not paying you for your features and benefits. They're paying you for a future success point. Get real clear with that right now. They're not paying you because, you have an SEO software program or, you have X number of years of experience. They're not paying you for that. They'll pay someone who has 6 months of experience if they know they can get to a future success point.
Yeah.
It's about the results people get when working with you. When you focus on that in your story, and again, you make your client your hero and you're just the guide, guiding them to that future success point, they retain that information. It's again, people are hardwired for stories. If you think about one of your favorite movies, a movie that you've watched a dozen times. I'm a crazy Harry Potter fan. I could probably interact and act out every single movie and every single line in that movie. Is it that I've memorized lines or have I internalized the story? Don't you want your future clients to internalize the story about your area of genius? Don't you want them to be able to repeat it to others and say, oh my God, I had the best call, and they share the actual parable, the story that you shared? That's the stickiness we're looking for. So there are social chasing options, right? Um, Engagement, likes, shares, comments. That's great. But when it comes down to it, what is the story you want them to hold on to and that emotion that's attached to that? To me, that's the most important thing. I remember, so there's someone that I follow on LinkedIn, Betsy Tong. She's amazing. And I remember the first post that I interacted with her. Think about that. And I've been following her for, I think, 6 or 9 months now. And I absolutely adore her. And I talk about her all the time. And it was a story about her friend who was working and killing herself working and gained 15 pounds and, went on antidepressants and was in the office 80 hours a week. And then, killing herself to get projects done. And then, whoop, she, oh, we're restructuring. Bye bye. She hadn't invested in herself. She invested in the company instead of investing in her own authority. That's a story that stuck with me because that used to be me. I did that for many years in Fortune 500 companies. I worked ridiculous hours with the hopes that I was going to get promoted. I would, leave my house at 7 a.m. and not come back till 7, 8 o'clock at night. I would work weekends. I mean, it was insane and it was unsustainable. And the benefits, the cost benefits didn't pan out. Did I get the promotions that I was looking for? Not always. Did I get any kind of pay raises? Very rarely, maybe an annual increase, but nothing that said, oh my God, we recognize what you're doing and we want to do something for you. I would get accolades all the time. I would have the president of the division or the president of the company see what I was doing. I got on their radar. So I had authority, but then I gave it away. And we do it all the time. We do it all the time. But that story stuck with me. And I was like, yes, that's That's the conundrum, that we think that somehow if we work hard enough, we put in enough hours, somehow something will come to us, when it's really about owning our power, investing in ourselves, and knowing we're indispensable. And if a company can't recognize that, we can move on. And that doesn't mean that you have to open your own company. That is not for everybody. And I recognize that. Owning your own business, as you know, can just suck. There's a lot of great things about it, and there's a lot of things that just, it's awful. And that's okay. But knowing that you can invest yourself and own your own authority so that you hold that power and you don't give it away. That's what resonated to me in that post. And it's funny, right? I'm talking about it with detail and you can tell it still brings up that emotion for me. It had stickiness. And it's not that, God bless Betsy. Her whole thing was, this is something that I see, and I want people to know that they're, number one, they're not alone. Happens all the time. And it happened to her. She worked for IBM. She worked for Intel. And they were just like, thanks for all your contributions. Thanks for making us a lot of money. Out the door you go. And it happened to her over and over again, which is why she went on and around, because she was like, this is ridiculous. It was passionate for her too. So we now, I feel like she's standing with me, right? Because we have a common experience that we can talk to. And that's what makes relationships work.
So it's all about creating a connection that is lasting.
Yeah.
We often misunderstand that the content we are telling, the stories that we are, spreading, is this for that particular movement. But surprisingly, it's for the longevity, it's to build trust, and it's to build a legacy for yourself. Right?
That's right. That's right. And it shows your humanity. I talk about, mistakes I make, because believe me, I've made plenty. I've taken on clients that I knew were not the right fit. I mean, I knew it from the first conversation we had. And then it was, 4 months of sheer torture. It was just awful. It was just not good at all. And knowing that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have missteps. It's okay to pick a wrong path. The beauty of what we do is we can go whoops-a-daisies and go, well, I'm going to go over here instead and pick this path. There's always something else that can be done. And my dad was a business owner. He ran a drugstore. And he always said, you can always make more money. And I believe that. No matter what happens to you, you still have an opportunity tomorrow to make more money. You have an opportunity tomorrow to make a difference. Tomorrow is a new day.
Absolutely. I mean, the people who are building beyond the algorithm are the ones who win, and who are stuck in that hamster wheel of pleasing the algorithm and sticking with the platform are the ones who don't leave behind a legacy. And partly, I feel like the ones who are able to build a legacy are telling the same stories over and over so that it sticks more. Even though you have told it once, it doesn't need that. It's not worthy to be told or to be said out loud over and over, right? It's your story. It's who you are. And if at all there's a different person in front of you, your story does not change. It's what defines you really.
Yep. And people want to see you show up in a consistent manner.
Yeah.
How you show up with your engagements on your social media of choice. Doesn't have to be LinkedIn. It could be Facebook, Insta, YouTube, whatever. How you show up in podcast interviews. How you show up if you write a book. How you show up on stage. How you show up with your clients. How you show up with live interviews. How you show up with radio interviews. I mean, it all can be consistent. And again, if you think about your favorite movie that you watch over and over, and you know what's coming, you know the storyline, you know exactly what's going to be said, and yet you still enjoy it because you've attached to it. The same can be said, for me. My publisher has a story that he sells, and I could recite it, and I love hearing it. And, he's told it like a million times, and I'm okay with that. It's the same idea.
That's the evergreen authority, and we are not chasing friends, we are setting authority. And during that process, we are also setting up legacy.
Yes. Evergreen authority. I love that. Absolutely.
Just because I brought that up because people are stuck in that hamster wheel, trying to do over and over the same thing over and over, but not landing anywhere. Mostly because probably they're lacking purpose. But secondly, I believe the evergreen authority is not present. They're not saying their own story. They're narrating something that is an ideal scenario that might be plausible for the algorithm, for the potential people, but it's not connecting, you know? So, what's your advice for creating content with legacy? Because that's my take. I want to know what's your take on that.
Yeah. So to create content that has legacy, I think it has to have genuine storytelling, and it has to consistently and constantly show up with knowledge that focuses on your area of genius. When I started back in 97, like 1,000 years ago, before the internet was even a thing, I want you to picture that. Like, internet wasn't a thing, cell phones were not a thing, craziness. It would take that, the studies showed that it would take 4 to 7 touch points for someone to hear your message, internalize it, and act on it. Because that's what we want them to do. We want it to hear it, want them to take it in, and then we want them to do the call to action. I think the last study that I read, and I could be, it's changing like every other day. The last study I read is it has to be 70 touch points now, 10 times as much to get through. If you change your strategy, if you change how you show up every time, you're starting from scratch. Think about the package for your Apple phone. I don't think the packaging design has changed in ever. I think it's the exact same packaging.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs decided it's going to be white. It's always going to be white. Why? Because it's consistent. Because it's what you expect. It's the brand experience you expect. If you suddenly change it, people are like, what is happening? What are you doing? Why are you changing this? I'm expecting it to be this. And people don't like change. They just don't. So when you're doing your content, if you're trying one thing and then you're like, oh, this isn't working, and a week later you try something else, you're basically starting over and you're confusing your audience as to who you are and why you matter. Don't confuse them. Stick to it. You know the stories. You know why you became what you are today. You know that aha moment, that origin story. And if you don't, go back and document it. There was a moment, like for me, there was a moment where I was working in a Fortune 500 company. And then there was one thing that happened. And then suddenly I thought, maybe I could run my own business. That thought had never occurred before that point. What is that point for you? Find it, write it down. People like those stories because it's like, oh my God, that was a transformative moment.
Yeah.
And you're sharing vulnerability and something interesting with me. And again, be consistent with how you show up. Consistent brand voice, consistent story formula. If I were Disney and I started out with Once Upon a Time for 5 years with my stories, and then I decided to change that beginning, people would be like, what are you doing? I'm expecting you, just like with Star Wars. If you watch Star Wars, if suddenly they weren't doing the big start with the music and the logo and then the storyline going up, and they changed it, you would be like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? stay consistent, stay consistent, stay consistent. And as people interact with you over time, they'll know who you are, they'll internalize who you are, and they'll have started to build a relationship with you without you even being in the room. And that to me is the most important thing.
Let's think back for a second. Think you mentioned about earning referrals. Why we hit record? Why we talking about this? Authority. You said something about earning referrals, and you try to refer someone who you have built connection with, and that person sticks. And someone does not choose the person, you're like, why? You know. So I want to know for the listeners of that, I think it will be very much beneficial that how do you craft a brand that earns referrals, not just followers, because we are living in a social media world, right? Everything is social, and every new update goes there, every new life story goes there, every new failure kind of goes there. So it's very easy to fake something. It's very easy to not be genuine, and it's very easy to be not be recommended as well. So during this era, how do you create a brand or how do you craft a brand that earns these referrals, like you have mentioned earlier?
Yeah, absolutely. So to me, the most important thing if you want to get a referral is you show up, you complete something in the way that it needs to be completed. And if something happens, you communicate early and often. People are okay if something goes off the rails if you let them know ahead of time. If you're not managing their expectation of how the experience is going to be, then they won't, they feel like you're hiding something and they don't, again, they don't have that trust factor with you. It all goes down to trust. Um, I will give you a story. I had a videographer that I have worked with for 15 years. Um, always said, and I actually had a client said, because I said, if you're going to do these videos, this is the person you use. If you use anybody else, I will not work with them. That's how, that's how much I believed in this videographer. And when he worked with the videographer, he said, I thought you were being a little elitist. You were being a little ridiculous. And then I worked with them and I said, oh my God, she's absolutely right. I can see why she's like, no, if you're not working with them, sorry, I don't want to be involved. I'm not going to help with the script. I'm going to refuse work if you don't work with them. And I'd worked with him for 15 years. And then I had a last minute request and they were looking at a quote and providing information. And 5 days before we were set to meet, I was calling in favors to get places to do the videos, working on the script. He sent me an email and said, sorry, I'm not comfortable working with this client and we're not going to be doing the work. Good luck.
Why was
Left, never really understood why. I actually called him, never got a really good answer as to why he was like, nope, not interested. And there were several things that bothered me about it. Number one, he didn't call me and have a conversation. We had worked together for 15 years. I had referred hundreds of thousands of dollars to him, and I never got any kind of referral fee. I never get a referral fee. If you're a good vendor, I will send work your way, and that's it. Because I want my client to always have the best. Full stop. So didn't get a call, just got an email. Didn't help me to find another videographer. Just went, good luck to you. And then when I called, I had to, I was calling him, I texted him, and I had to almost force him to get on the phone. And then I didn't get an answer. It was just, meh. I don't have a good feeling. I don't want to be involved. So I've put my reputation on the line for you. You're giving me almost no notice. And now we have to figure out a plan B. And my client was flying across the country to do this. And I thought, geez, if you don't have my back and you're not here to work with me and you're okay to just pull the rug out, why would I ever refer work to you again? In that one moment, the way it was handled, and I'm not saying you can't say, I don't want to work with this client, but there's a way to do it. This was not the way in my mind. This was a transactional relationship. He treated me like it was a transactional relationship, not a relationship that had been forged over decades. And I felt really insulted. And I was like, okay, I'm never going to refer work to you again because I can't trust you now, right? I can't trust that you're going to actually do what you say that you've agreed to. That's a problem for me. When you're looking at becoming a referral source, you have to be reliable. You have to be consistent. You have to show up. People have to know if I give this work to you, you're going to do right by my client because they don't have a relationship with you. They don't know you. They know me. And if something goes sour, they're going to be irritated with you, but they're going to go after me. And I have a real problem with that. So anybody that I refer to, I know that they're going to go above and beyond. I know they're going to do what's right for my client. I know it's not just about give me a bunch of money. It's I'm here to help you succeed and get over this problem, and I'm going to help you solve it. And those are the best referrals. You're setting that referral source up for success because now they're the hero because they recognized there was a problem, knew it wasn't in their wheelhouse, but got you the best source to solve it. So to me, it's not about like, how's this communication strategy? And no, your work should speak for your level of commitment, and it always will. So whether it's a client that's saying, yes, you should work with this person, or a vendor that's saying, I can't do this, but absolutely work this individual, having integrity and showing up where you're doing the work wholly, completely, the way it needs to be done in a manner that's ethical and professional. And that if anything is going to go wrong, you communicate early and often so that the expectation is managed, you will get referrals every single time. And like you said, sadly, there's a lot of bad actors out there, right? That don't have the skill set, that don't know what they're doing, that make some bad choices. I mean, I was very shocked that this vendor made that choice. And again, I'm not saying that he wasn't right or in a position to say, I'm not comfortable taking this work on. But there was a manner in which to communicate that and to work with me to solve the problem. And it was not my problem, not my monkey, not my circus. Good luck to you. And that left a really bad taste in my mouth. And I am still in the mindset that, I haven't found the right vendor yet. I'm still looking, to be able to refer other people for a videographer. But unfortunately, that was my go-to. And at this point, I'm like, yeah, if I can't trust you're going to show up for me and my client, how do I know that you're going to show up for anybody else? That's a problem. And he wiped out 15 years in a matter of minutes. Think about that. Minutes. Not cool.
It's all about that, way of conversation or way of positioning yourself as well. I mean, if you want to build a relationship that lasts, you have to be on your toes all the time. You don't speak something right away. Take a minute, think about it. Is it a correct statement that is coming out of your mouth, or is it on the heat of the moment?
If you do something because it makes your comfort level the best, again, I believe in showing up and being of service. Leaders also are of service. They always put their audience, their clients above their own. And he chose his comfort over helping me with mine.
I mean, if you take accountability there, I mean, both parties are happy, right? You'll keep on getting those levels, and you'll have more work on your hands. But is that interaction, that one particular interaction went bad, no more work for that guy, right? It's such an exciting conversation. I want to go on and on talking with it, but sadly, we are short on time. It's done. And we have to, shift our conversation to some other day. I'll look forward to that as well. But before we part our ways, do you have anything you have to share to our listeners? Any final message you want to give of it before we, shut this recording down?
Yeah. So I always like to end, and I end my keynotes this way, I end my interviews this way. Wherever you are in your digital marketing journey, building authority, building your brand, creating content, becoming a referral source, developing a website, setting an email campaign, wherever you are, look at it as a climb with no summit. Wherever you are, you still have 100% to go. So just keep going. Every day is an opportunity to move the needle just a little bit more.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you so much for spending your time with me.
Absolutely, Pratyush. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you found this episode insightful. I'll leave links to Lisa's socials and her books down in the description and show notes for you to go and check it out. I'll catch you in the next one, but until then, take care.